What's a product or service you should never cheap out on? If you're a hiker, camper, backpacker, your actual backpack. And buy it last. Why is this? Just to make sure all of the other equipment gear fits? Anything meant to protect you. Helmets, work boots, sporting equipment, etc. If the purpose of the item is to reduce or prevent injury, then don't cheap out on it. Work boots, yes. For the love of God, if your job requires you to have work boots, get good ones, because that means that they're not only protecting you but you're on them all day long. I tried to get shitty steel-toed boots when I first worked in construction, and after less than 2 months the boots went to shit along with my poor feet. Invested in a pair of Red Wings and never looked back. Ada, I know they're expensive y'all, but hold on to that receipt because they're tax deductible and sometimes jobs have work boot allowances, but you just might not know about it. Second, Ada, in the same way there are different people with different feet ways of walking tastes, there are a lot of different decent work boots. I wasn't trying to imply that Red Wings were the end-all be-all of work shoes, they are just what suited me. Just go try some out and see what you prefer. I just paid $130 to have my work boots repaired and resold. Well, my employer did at least. That's more than a cheaper pair of boots would cost brand new. And they're worth every penny. I've worked in civil survey for 20 plus years. I just got a job with a company that pays a boot allowance. Best ducking thing ever. $150 a year, every year. LASIK. They are supposed to do tests beforehand to screen for people who are susceptible to catastrophic complications, like a corneal tear. If you are going someplace that is suspiciously cheap, less than $1,000 per eye in 2005, they're probably skipping those tests. Edit, 2005 numbers because that's when I had my surgery and did my research. Edit 2, for those asking, I went from 20,700 to 2015 right after the surgery. After 1 to 2 years I was 2020, and today I am 2030. So there's been some backsliding, but I'm still miles ahead of where I started. It was the best money I've ever spent. Edit 3, 20,700. Not a typo. I got LASIK surgery 3 months ago for $1,500, and I remember them specifically giving me those tests, topography and wavefront analysis. They did use the older Kerotome rather than the wavefront guided laser, which probably justified the cost. However, my eyes are 2015 now, and I couldn't have been happier with the decision. #X200B, if anyone decides to go that route, I suggest you research the surgeon first and read reviews of the location in detail. $1,500 is cheap for LASIK. Mine was $3,400 for both eyes. Bad sight and astigmatism made it more costly. Most people don't realize your current sight makes a difference in the cost. Oh, and my insurance didn't see it as cosmetic. I met my deductible last year before the surgery and paid $0 out of pocket. Mine was $3,400 for both eyes. Honestly, insurance or not, $3,400 to just straight up fix part of your body is cheap. It's more staggering that it isn't artificially kept higher. It's not artificially higher because insurance doesn't pay most of the time. If it was $10K or $15K, almost nobody would get it done. $2K, $5K keeps it in the range of middle-class folks being able to afford it. Insurance not covering it most of the time has caused the price to fall pretty quickly. The doctors are competing for your business. Anything that's a minor annoyance on the regular. When I moved into my new flat, I bought 2 spatulas, just cheap, shitty plastic things that cost about 50p each. They're okay for flipping eggs, but other than that, they're pretty much pointless. You can't move anything with any weight with them, because they're too flimsy. Every time I cooked, I was reminded of, and irritated by, just how ducking useless they are. On the other hand, a solid, decent spatula would have been at most $4. If you'd asked me at the time if I would have paid an extra $3.50 to avoid feeling vaguely pissed off every time I went to fry some food, I would have said yes in a heartbeat, but because I'd already bought them, and because they still technically worked even if they didn't work well, I stuck with them for far too long. $3.50 to remove that minor irritation from my day was well worth it. If you can afford it, it's worth looking at the stuff you did cheap out on and buying new ones. All the little annoyances soon add up. The strong spatulas can be too strong sometimes though. I'm gonna open this drawer now. Spatula, it'd be a shame if something were to prevent that entirely, wouldn't it? Spatulas should never be put in drawers. Spatulas should be hung out in the open, where it's easy to grab them, and as a warning to all other utensils who think it's a good idea to duck with my drawers. Actually, spatulas should be let free into the wild to roam the open earth as they please. The same with tongs, the long ones, especially. Potato mashers. 1,000-yard stare goddamn potato mashers. Number 1 drawer jammer. Name of your sex tape. Boom. An IT system with full staff for a park filled with live dinosaurs. Spare no expense. Spared no expense. Hired one programmer at lowest bid. Sorry about your financial problems, I really am. But they are your problems. I believe he was paid well in the book. Biosyn, or whatever they called, were offering him millions. Edit. Had to break out the book. Nedry was paid well at first but eventually had to return to the island for a lot of last-minute additions and changes requested by Ingen. Hammond and co. wanted changes before the park opened, which was going to be very soon in the novel's timeline. Nedry did not work for Ingen but Integrated Computer Systems, who had Jurassic Park as a client. Ingen threatened to sue X along with tarnishing Nedry's name to his other clients. So Hammond was just being his evil self there, but Integrated Computer Systems still sent him back with no extra pay, so he was kinda being screwed by both his employer and client. My 2 cents is that everyone was an asshole here. I feel for Nedry, but his revenge greed lead to many, many deaths. I know that wasn't his intentions, but it was clearly a possibility. Hammond was being his evil, billionaire, capitalistic self. And Integrated Computer Systems didn't seem to care for their employee, who was indeed a great programmer regardless of being a sloppy person. Also, they sent him back without pay and didn't seem to really care about defending Nedry's skill sets to their other clients. As the only programmer for the first park with live dinosaurs in history. Could they have expected that? The contract for him to develop a system that big would have been millions or tens of millions anyway. Again, I haven't read the book in a while, but I think they had others freelance workers that worked for Ingen in San Fan or somewhere with Nedry as the lead full-time in-house employee. He was the only one that worked on the island, which was only supposed to be temporary. And, no one forced him to work there anyways. He could have said no if he didn't think the salary was worth it. He was noted as an incredible programmer for his age. Also, his death could be the most haunting thing I've ever read. Edit for those curious of his death. This video illustrates it perfectly. YouTube.com. Brakes and tires. And if you live in an area of the world where it snows often in winter, then buy winter tires. Electrician. Going off this, most all home contractors. There is usually a reason that one contractor is much cheaper than the others: low quality materials, incompetent labor, cutting corners, etc., and it will be reasons that you are either stuck with for many years or need to pay even more to get fixed. Now don't go with the highest estimate, but you also shouldn't go with the lowest as well. Tires. It's the only thing connecting your 4,000 pounds missile to the ground. I bought new tires last year. Before that, my parents had been maintaining my car, but only the bare minimum. Holy crap, the difference in driving was huge. Way better control and gas mileage now. This is true, however, cheap tires are better than no tires at all. I've seen people leave the tire shops I've worked at, with bald-ass tires, cords showing, in a snowstorm, because they couldn't afford the best possible tire available. They were the type of person who grew up with parents that only had the best for their car. Well, back then the best was cheap. And now they are old and can afford to pay. So 30-year-old Johnny rolls in his grandma's old mint 99 Grand Marquis with 66K, and gets upset when top-of-the-line Goodyears or Michelin or Nitto cost $800, when in reality the $350 set of Coopers or Generals give you 90% of the tire at 44% of the price. So yeah, don't skimp on tires, but don't think that the best is needed all the time. Edit. I would have never thought my highest upvoted comment would have been about tires. Hell yeah. New tires are better than no tires. 3 sets I've had to get the cheap ones because that's all I could afford. Finally got some mid-range Goodyear and I feel like I'm a superstar. Modems routers. A lot of times the cheap ones can't keep up with your internet speed, so you lose so much. Seconded, but for random disconnect Wi-Fi reasons. Bought an Asus and the 5 GHz band locks up every 15 minutes, so I use 2.4 GHz now despite the crowding. Weird, Asus actually launched routers that were some of the best on the market. We have one at home and one at the office, both work flawlessly.